All right. It's like I made a rave with all these red lights. At least I assume. I've never actually been invited to a rave. But I am a product director at Twilio, working on text messaging. And before joining Twilio, I was a customer of Twilio, working on text messaging. And before Twilio was a company, I was still working on text messaging. And I actually just celebrated my 10-year anniversary of working full-time on SMS. And in honor of this milestone, I wanted to give a different kind of talk at Signal. I wanted to just reminisce and sort of tell you about what it's been like doing this for 10 years. Albert Einstein has a famous quote: "Don't worry about your difficulties in mathematics. I assure you mine are still greater." And I kind of feel like that applies to me as well. After 10 years of designing products and writing code and advising companies and advising nonprofits, I have screwed up so many times. You would not believe the number of mistakes that I have made, the number of production incidents that I've caused. And so in this talk, I'm going to share my biggest screw-ups with you so that you don't make the same mistakes. And you'll also hear how Twilio has learned from my mistakes and how we've built a lot of those learnings directly into our software. But let me start at the beginning. Like, how did I start with text messaging? Because it's not just my 10-year text anniversary. It's also my 10-year wedding anniversary. So 10 years ago, I got married, and I went on a honeymoon. And it rained the entire time. And so my new bride and I, we sat inside, and we played Scrabble every day for a week. It was the best honeymoon ever, except for one thing. We didn't have a Scrabble dictionary, which basically means you're not really playing Scrabble. And so I had just gotten my first text plan at the time, and I thought, hey, remember, this is before iPhone. I mean, this is 10 years ago. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could text? And a lot of companies start when someone says, wouldn't it be cool? So wouldn't it be cool if I could text a word and find out if it was valid in Scrabble or not? And everyone in the audience could do this now in about 15 minutes. But remember, this is before Twilio. This is a long time ago. I had no idea how to do this. And I got home, and I said, I'm going to build it in case I ever get married again, I guess. And so I called, I found an SMS aggregator, a big carrier company. I talked to an enterprise sales rep, and I told him my cool idea. And I said, isn't this awesome? He said, I guess so. I said, how much is it going to cost? And he said, oh, I can't tell you. You have to sign an NDA. And I was like, I have to Google what NDA means. Like, this is the world of text messaging before Twilio came on the scene. And then Twilio came along, and they had this API, and it could not be easier, right? To, from, and body, and that's it, right? SMS is so easy, solve problem, we're done, right? And judging by this API, it really is that easy. But that's not the reality, right? I mean, Patrick talked about this in the keynote, right? There's so much complexity with SMS in the US, internationally. And when you're sending large volumes, you're sending across different geographies, or you're trying to make a fantastic end-user experience, it's quite challenging, right? There's a lot of variables that you have to account for, right? Every country has its own best practices, different regulations, hundreds of carriers, thousands of handsets, and even though there's a spec, not all of them conform to it. Right? Character encodings, delivery receipts that you get back from the carriers are not always accurate. Messages get caught in spam filters downstream, and you can't just write a for loop and just send messages. You have to think about latency and queuing and rate limiting, and all just to send a text message, right? So then why text messaging, right? And also, why do I care so much about it? Right? And the reason is because it's so effective, right? And everyone in this room has experienced it, and for 10 years later, it is such an effective way to communicate, right? And I really care about it a lot because it makes my customers effective, and it makes them have a much easier time creating great end-user experiences for their customers. And I'm not going to go on about all the stats about text messaging, but there's one thing that I think is actually very cool about text messaging that people take for granted. And that is that text messaging is openly addressable, right? You can message any person just by giving them a phone number. I mean, message anyone just by knowing their phone number. There's nothing to sign up for. There's no app to download. There's no permission to grant. There's no wall to like. I mean, you can just message anyone, right? And that's a lot of power, right? That's a lot of, it's amazing that literally any person in this room could make any pocket in the planet vibrate right now, right? I mean, Twilio has an API to make people do this. It's so much power, and I want to tell you about a time when I really, really, really abused that power. because as I'm sure you all know, we talk about it a lot, there are limitations as to how quickly you can send messages to the carrier network. In the US, we talk about 1 message per second, but it really varies based on contracts, downstream capacity, carrier regulations. And before Twilio, you had to do this yourself. Right? So I want to talk about the architecture that I first built to rate limit messages so I could send them compliantly into the carrier's network. And so here was my first application, and it would enqueue a text message into a rate-limited SMS queue. And then on the other side, I had another process which would dequeue the SMS at a compliant rate and send it out to the carriers. Right? Worked great. The carrier would send back a response to say hey, they got it. And then I would persist that response into the database so I would know the message was sent. And it worked really well. Right? It's a fantastic architecture, rate limited, compliant. I was very proud of myself. Until one day that write back to the database didn't work. And so my application crashed because I wasn't really expecting that, which was fine because I'm an awesome engineer and I had built application monitoring. So my application came right back up and it was highly available and it was awesome and it read back into that queue the first unsent message, which was the message I had just sent and didn't mark it sent, and it sent it to the carriers again, and it wrote it back in the database, and that write failed. But because I'm an awesome engineer, my application came right back up, no problem, and it read back, and you see where this is going, and 36,000 text messages later that I sent to one dude, I finally managed to kill the process. And I did not know what was going to happen, right? Like, are you allowed to do that? Like, what am I going out of business? Is Verizon going to sue me? Like, I had absolutely no idea what to do. Totally freaked out. So I just called the guy. I just called the number. I didn't know what else to do. So I called him and I said, hi, my name is Ben. I'm calling from Verizon. And he said, oh, I'm very glad you called. It was a much older gentleman. Today was the first time I accessed the texting, and my phone vibrated for 4 hours. Is that right? And I was like, no, sir, sorry, that was a Verizon problem. It won't happen again, we've taken care of it. So it was a funny ending to that story, and really turns out, looking back, that building highly available, distributed rate-limited queues is actually a very hard problem, right? And this is something that Twilio does that's invisible, right? You don't know that Twilio is doing it, right? We think about, one message per second, that's the limitation. It's actually an awesome feature of Twilio. You can burst messages to Twilio as quickly as you want, and they will keep the application compliant on the back end, right? And speaking of this 1 message per second, I think we talk about it a lot, and I've known it for years, but sometimes it's really hard to grok. What does that actually mean? Like, what does that mean in reality? And so I wanted to share another story. I can't believe I'm sharing these stories. This is a customer I worked with that was a reggae music festival. And when people would sign up to buy tickets, they would put their phone number on the website, and then we would text them their ticket, and then there was sort of marketing leading up to the event that we were sending out. And it actually was great. It was a great consumer experience until this happened. And a massive thunderstorm was about to break out at the festival, and the organizers had this awesome idea. We have everyone's cell phone number. We can text people what shows are canceled, where to go for help, all the safety information, and they were super excited. So just started messaging the entire festival, which took hours. People were getting messages the next day saying, hey, it's going to start raining soon. So it was a total catastrophe. And this is the reality of what sending messages 1 second at a time actually can mean for you. And actually, so I took a lesson from before. So I called the organizers that were on the ground at the festival, and I said, hey, I hope you're staying dry. Did you notice any messages being delayed a little bit? And I'll never forget this response. Dude, we are at a reggae festival. Do you think anyone noticed their messages being delayed? All right, good, great ending. So, but I want to talk about a few tools that Twilio has, to protect you from this and to give you an understanding as developers as to what's actually going on. So really, I think the hardest part about that music festival experience is my application, looked like it was performing perfectly, right? It was up, it was sending messages, they were all going out. I thought everything was awesome, right? What I didn't understand what was happening downstream, Right? So earlier this year, we released message queue insights. So you could introspect the queues that are inside Twilio's platform. And you can see at the bottom this flat line. Like, that's all good, right? That means your queue is pretty much empty. Messages are going out at a regular clip. Then you can see, boom, that queue completely fills up, and you can watch the queue deplete over time. So this type of transparency really helps you understand what's actually going on. And with CoPilot, we have a number of features that help you with this. Right? We released CoPilot about 2 years ago to help manage pools of numbers. So if you have phone numbers and short codes and alpha senders and you need to manage this collection, Twilio can handle that for you. And Twilio will automatically pick the best number out of that pool. But we've been working hard on CoPilot since then. A new feature we recently released is area code geomatching. So if you have a lot of numbers in the pool and you want to create a hyper-local experience, previously we would just pick the best sender for a country. But now we'll actually match that area code. And we're smart enough to match overlapping area codes. So in New York, you might get 646 or 917. We'll really get that hyper-local experience. Shortcode fallback. Right? We can detect when a phone or a handset doesn't support shortcode messaging, which is just the reality in the United States. Not every plan will support shortcodes. And when that message fails to send over a shortcode, we can optionally fall back and resend it over a long code phone number. And with sticky sender mapping, it'll keep that same number for that end user. And smart encoding. So if you try to send a message that uses a character that's not in the supported GSM character set, which is the text messaging character set, we can optionally replace the characters with close matching equivalents. Right? And the effect of this is it just saves you money. Right? Because if you use the wrong encoding, your messages may get split, and you'll get charged twice as much. So this is cool. This is just a feature. Enable it, save money. And all of these are available today inside the console, and you can do it for any of your existing running Twilio applications. Just check a box, and these features are just enabled, and suddenly you'll have failover, and your messages will not concatenate. And it's really along this theme of things that Twilio does to get you to production scale faster and to prevent you from making mistakes, right? Protect you from yourselves. Compliance is another very good one. So in the United States, if someone texts in stop, you're required to opt them out of the messaging list. Or if they text in help, there's compliant language that you need to send back. And Twilio automates this for you. Right? We have our own blacklist. So if a user texts in stop or quit, we won't let you text them anymore. Right? That's a really cool feature just to protect you from yourself. And speaking of, I want to jump into an embarrassing story, actually. So I was working, this is a few years ago, with a fantastic public health organization. And what they were doing was smoking cessation, trying to get people to stop smoking by using text messaging. And the science had shown that encouraging people by sending them messages to stay smoke-free was an extremely effective way to quit smoking. And it was a national campaign and huge advertising budget, and we wanted lots of people to participate. So to sign up for the program, people could text into a shortcode. And so we had television ads, we had newspaper ads, massive program. And what better way to get people to opt in to quit smoking than texting quit to a shortcode? So an absolute catastrophe, basically. You see, there's 5 words that the carriers deem opt-out words: cancel, stop, and subscribe and quit. So if anyone texts in any of these words, you're required to opt them out, never text them again. This is another experience I've had after looking at millions and millions of text messages. This is not how people try to opt out of messaging programs. You generally see things that look a whole lot more like this. And while you're technically not required, by the letter of the law to opt out people when they text something like this, it's actually a great customer experience. Right? And something I always encourage people to do is really build great end user experiences over SMS. Right? You don't get a lot of feedback as a user. So you really need to make that experience feel great. And one thing that Twilio has is add-ons in our marketplace. And add-ons are third-party products that integrate directly into Twilio's APIs. And so when a text message arrives, we can reach out to these third parties and then annotate the request, the webhook that hits your server, with extra information. And so we have one that's pretty near and dear to my heart. I worked on it at my former company, which is an Optout Classifier. And so this is really neat. When a text message hits your server and you get the callback, we'll annotate it with the probability that any given phrase was an opt-out. So someone says, hello there, and we'll add a little blob of JSON that says the probability of that being an opt-out is basically close to 0. But if someone says, please don't text me, 99% probability that person's trying to opt out. Right? And so it's just a great experience to remove them from the list, right? And giving your customers that kind of user experience is just really improves the whole the experience of your SMS platform. We have a lot of different add-ons, right? We have add-ons that you can enable just inside the console or with an API. Your add-ons for adding caller ID or extra carrier information or sentiment analysis, a whole lot more, right? You can just check a box, and then we'll start adding this information directly to your webhooks. And speaking of creating a great end-user experience, another thing that I like to recommend is that if your application is two-way and you're doing engagement messaging, and the app doesn't understand what the user is trying to do, respond, right? Send back an autoresponder that says, hey, I didn't understand that. And ask them to try again with instructions, right? You see, oh, I didn't understand. Please reply Y or N. Great user experience, unless the person on the other side is also a bot. Right? So even though you coded your application perfectly, and your friend coded their application perfectly, you could end up in an infinite loop with one another. The result is hundreds or thousands of dollars in text messaging costs as your two bots talk back and forth forever. So Twilio added loop detection. We'll detect when this is happening, and we'll automatically break those infinite loops. And this saves customers tens of thousands of dollars every month. Right? This is just more ways that Twilio really tries to protect us from ourselves. Right? And this is stuff that doesn't always make it to the, it's not sexy, it doesn't make it to the glossy marketing slides. We can't tell developers that, yeah, you're probably going to make an infinite loop one day. But we invest a whole lot in making sure that the developer experience is fantastic as you scale. A few more things. We recently added body and phone number redaction. Right? So if privacy is very important to you because for your application or for your industry, Twilio will strip out the bodies out of our logs, out of our databases, long-term storage, our debugger, notifications. We'll strip it out from everywhere and make sure that it doesn't get persisted. Right? So if you're in an industry like healthcare and you really don't want Twilio to keep a copy of that data, you can treat us like a conduit. We'll just pass that information along downstream to the end user, and we'll never sit on it. Similarly with phone numbers, we'll X out the last 4 digits of any phone number. So we'll send it to the end user, and we won't store it at all. Right? And this is just a great way to have fewer copies of your data around the cloud. And lastly is spam filtering. Right? So Twilio has invested very heavily in protecting our own network and the carrier networks from fraudsters. Right? Any successful growing application, fraudsters are going to find ways to attack it. We've trained our machine learning algorithms on millions and millions of messages. It's been fantastic at protecting our networks. And it's something that we're turning around and we're making available to you. So for anyone who has potentially untrusted users sending text messages into your application, you run the risk of someone else running up a huge Twilio bill for you. Right? So using our own spam filtering, we can let you add an extra layer of protection to your application. And the last place where Twilio really helps in this case was from Oprah. So we were going to be on Oprah, and Oprah was going to make a call to action to say, to text in. And if Oprah says, go buy a book, 10 million people go buy a book. Right? It's amazing the power that she has to get people to do something. So we knew if she told people to text in, people were going to text in. They were going to take out their phones, and they were going to do what she said. And, the business people were super excited. The engineers were super terrified, right? So we provisioned what we thought was going to be enough servers. We load tested, what we thought was going to be enough load testing, and we advised, Oprah, like the media folks at the Oprah show, how to make a good call to action if you're a celebrity, right? So we said, okay, well, we need to tell Oprah to take out her phone. She should take out her phone on screen, so the audience will understand they should also take out their phone. great. And she should say text a keyword to a shortcode. And so, OK, great. But she's going to say it, and she's probably going to say it quickly. So she should repeat it, and she should say it slowly. And you should put the instructions on the screen. Right? You should say text a keyword to a shortcode in big letters. And you should make those letters like big, like make them red, like big red letters to say the keyword and the shortcode. And OK, so we were load tested. We were ready to go. We thought it was going to be great. We were gathered around the television, ready to rock. And this is what we saw. So maybe Twilio can't protect you from everything. We really, really try. This is a bit of a personal catastrophe. But so I want to thank you all very much. I finished a couple minutes early, so get a couple minutes back. But yeah, thank you for coming, and we'd love to chat with everyone afterwards.